Hello, it is Lori Ballen, Lori Vegas Ballen, serving Henderson, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Nevada, specializing in Summerlin. This video is going to be, it's going to be a walkthrough of exactly what I'm doing to update my database. So how am I taking my old database and syncing it with my new database? And today we're going to specifically use KW command as an example, although anybody who's watching this can use these same methods. What I want to do today is show you the difference between command, the difference between Zapier and Piesync and where they might actually come in handy. So let me first start by saying that Zapier, I'm going to go right here, Zapier allows you to create an if this then that formula and is great for importing new leads. So if we take a look up here, let's look at the apps that Zapier integrates with. You can see all kinds of CRMs and databases. Somebody just asked me about LionDesk. Let me see. Yep, there's LionDesk. There's MailChimp. Here's Infusionsoft. What else are you guys using? Top Producer. There's Top Producer. So most of the popular CRMs are working here. We even now have Listings to Leads, which is another lead source that I'm using and I teach. Link below in this video. We have IDX Broker, which is another, which is what I use for building out my websites. Those also funnel in here. So instead of using Parsi, which is something I've taught in the past, which I actually love Parsi, but it's super geeky, so I'm not going to get into that today. You can actually take your leads and say, if a lead comes in to Listings to Leads, then import it into KW command. Okay, now how we do that, let's just go ahead and take a look at this. Let's make a Zap. And let's say if we get a lead from Listings to Leads. So when do we want this to be active? New lead. It triggers when a new lead is created. Perfect. Save and continue. Now you can name your Zap. So I have Listings to Leads, whatever I want to call that. I'm going to call this sample so I know to delete it later. Okay, now this is where you would actually be integrating your Listings to Leads account. Mine's already in there, but if not, click connect. And now you're going to have to use an API key. Now this tells you exactly what to do. This sounds really geeky, but it's not as bad as you think. It says visit profile. So you could open that in a new tab so you can see what it looks like. So it's opening the profile inside Listings to Leads. Okay, so here's what happens. Sometimes you're going to integrate Zapier or Piesync directly from the platform you're using, and sometimes it's reverse. But frequently they'll say, let me give you a key code or an API number that creates that communication. It's basically like having a key to a door. It's what connects those. It's a lock. Like we have to unlock it. So if you go over to CRM integration, you can see right here which ones Listings to Leads integrates with. But here we said, let me follow this exactly as it said. So open profile, go to CRM integrations, find Zapier from the Listings to Lead dashboard to find your key. Okay, so I'm here, go to Zapier, and there's your key. So you're just going to copy that key, go back into Zapier, where we have the connect your account, and you're going to paste your key right there and click yes, continue. Okay, so now here you go. It's just saying this is my Listings to Leads account. So now I set it up twice, right? Actually, this was the correct one. The other one, the new one is the sample. So I'm going to put sample because I don't want that in there twice. Okay, you can test it and then make sure it works. Now you know it's connecting. So now you can go save and continue. go to the next step. All right. Now, what it does is it immediately goes into listings to leads and it pulls a sample so that we're going to be able to work from. Okay. So it's going to show us that person that's being dropped in. What we want to do is we want to try to pull in a lead that has all the data that we want. Here we go. So there's that person's address. We're going to be importing that. Their first name, importing that. What I'm looking for is this. Let me see if this person has a phone number. There is a phone number. That's what I want. Okay. So I'm going to take a lead that has all the details I want to map, and then I'm going to click continue. So I chose lead B, and I'm going to continue. All right. Please check the following. Your Zap currently lacks an action step. Okay, we didn't put in our action steps. So what we didn't do is we set up listings to leads, but we didn't say where we wanted it to go. So we want listings to leads to communicate with KW command. So we want our leads to go into KW command. Create lead, save and continue. So you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to connect your KW command account by clicking connect an account and then follow the steps there. So all you're going to be doing is logging in to your command. You'll be able to connect. Then click save and continue. Now this is the most important part, because what you're going to do now is you're going to map the fields just like you would if you were importing from a spreadsheet, where you say this first name field equals first name field in my new database. Lead source in my old database equals source in my new database. So if you don't map it correctly, you will have things from your old database importing into the wrong fields. After you set this up, the most important thing you can do is check your database each day for new leads to make sure everything is mapping in correctly. Okay, so data source. All right, where is it coming from? So if you want this to say listings to leads, where did you get the leads from? Then you could map this data source. Actually, we're going to do listings to leads. Okay. Now, let me just give you a Lori Ballen advanced commentary here. I don't believe listings to leads is ever the source. Listings to leads, in my opinion, is the vehicle. So when they're using listings to leads, they're filling out a home valuation page, or they're filling out a property info page. But there was something that drove them to listings to leads. So that would be a Facebook ad, that would be Google organic, something like that. So I actually do not want my data source to say listings to leads, because it's not. That is not the source. That's a vehicle. Challenges getting super advanced here would be grabbing the IP address, going into my analytics software. I use Clicky, and then tracing the actual source. Okay, I do that in another video. If you're not going that advanced and you just want to credit listings to leads, then just credit listings to leads. Okay, so I might credit listings to leads, and then I'm going to go back behind it and actually change it all to the correct source. So then I know anything that maps in from listings leads needs to be manually sourced. So I'm going to go in and change something. Now, the idea with KW command is that eventually we would be using these integrations that would automatically pull those things for us. It'll populate first click URL or last click URL and when they registered. And it would pull in Google or Facebook or whatnot. And then we'll be able to credit ROI to an actual source and ROI to an actual URL on our website. But right now I do a lot of that manually where I can't see it here. Now my team and I had built out Infusionsoft so that it was all automated. So this is a big step for me to go to something that doesn't have that automation, because I took years building automation in. But I'm a teacher first, and I truly believe in where command is going. So I have gone ahead and started using these steps instead of the super advanced Infusionsoft that I built out. And that way I'll be able to figure out how we do our workarounds and how we go get that information. So listings to leads releases the IP address. It's going to be important that we funnel that in somewhere so that we can then go track that lead. All right, so we're just going to leave it as listings to leads right now. Which team will this be assigned to? Lori Ballen. Okay, so you'll pull yourself up as the agent or your team there. Full name. So this is going to be the seller. All right, I just have his first name, so we're going to put that in there. Email address. Keep in mind, guys, this is not going to be a perfect process. Not every platform is going to sync up the way we want it to. And hopefully, as these platforms become more and more aware of command, they'll allow us to do these integrations within their platform instead of using a third-party source like Zapier. But that has to come with those integrations over time. Okay, phone number. So we're going to go down and we're going to map the phone. Are they a buyer or a seller? They're a seller. What address are they giving us? I'm going to go down and grab that address. City. Let's see if city's in there. Oh, see? There's a good example. It's all connected. All right, so another advanced hack is going to be to do something like, instead of creating the zap between listings to leads and KW command, we may have to have this work with a Google sheet instead. So if listings to leads lead, then Google sheet, so that we can split the first and last name, then import. But again, advanced hacks, we'll worry about that later. So this is not going to map in there perfectly, but it will at least put it in there, which is important. The first step is just getting all this stuff into the CRM. So what I might be able to do is speak with listings leads. I know Scott Pierce very well, and talk to him about, can we create a first name, last name field and a address, city address. You know what else? That might be on my end. I may be able to go in there and customize the landing page and split those. So I'll have to go back and look. All right. So we've got all that in there. Then we're going to click continue. Then what we're going to do is we're going to send a test to command to see if it worked. Okay. Now in my case, Edgar's probably already in there. So let's check. Maybe not. Let me see, what's the email address? Okay, I don't see him in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this and click send test to Keller Williams command. Okay, now let me share with you another drawback here. I'm always going to come to you from a very honest standpoint and from what I see working and what needs to improve. And that is that the zaps are only running, I believe, every 15 minutes. So if you count on your lead to come into listings to leads, then to go into run through the zap and then go into command, you're going to have a 15-minute delay. So your speed to lead is going to be really bad. So my suggestion is that you still have something set up that says, maybe you set up another zap that says, if listings to leads, then text me, or then send an email. Or maybe your listings to leads platform is sending an email to your email and you're getting it that way. For right now, until we have integrations that work much faster, I highly suggest that you have another form of notification besides just counting on command when you're using things like zaps and Piesyncs, okay? And I'll get into Piesync after this and how I use that. All right, so let's go back into our contacts here. And we're looking for Ed. Oh, I never tested it. Yeah, it was sent 1 minute ago. So we're still waiting. Make sure there's no filters on. Okay, nothing yet. So you see what I mean? So it's going to come through, but it's going to take time for it to actually hit in here, unfortunately. So what I'm going to suggest, I'm going to go ahead and move over now to Piesync, and then we can come back and check this to see it show up. My suggestion is that we're checking this by date and checking how everything is importing in. All right, so let's leave Zapier alone for a second while we're watching that integrate. And let's go over to Piesync so I can show you what we do with Piesync. Okay, so Zapier we're going to use for if this new lead comes in, then import into my database. That's kind of what we're doing with Zapier, okay? Now let's go into Piesync. We're going to go up here to Settings. We're going to go down to Piesync, and we're going to click Show Details. Now, you're going to have to connect first to Piesync. I'll put a link in my description of the video here. I am an affiliate marketer, and I do benefit if you make a purchase through any of my links. Piesync, I have to look at pricing. I know that you get a certain number of syncs or something for free, and then I believe there's a charge. Not everything. There's a common misconception that we're getting everything for free in Command, and that's not true. We're getting the platform for free as part of being with Keller Williams. And there's certain components that are free. Anything that KW specifically is building into the platform is free. But the third-party things that we still need to use, which to me are still bolt-on technology, so I'm not sure how that all works. But if we're using Piesync or we're using MailChimp or we're using things like that, there potentially is a fee. You have to look. Now, I understand like with DocuSign, they're saying it's included now for free. If you want to use .loop, you have to pay for that. So there's certain things I'm sure that either are going to be, they're either free now or they're going to be free, and it's potentially the fact that they're just using an integration right now for us so that we have some opportunity, and maybe it'll be built in later. But don't freak out if you see that things have a fee. Just go look at the pricing so that you can see how it works. Okay, so once you connect Piesync, click Show Details. Okay, I'm going to warn you right now. 1, this is geeky. This is high tech. It's going to look very scary. 2, you can really screw things up if you don't follow some very specific steps. I'm going to show you the biggest one that creates a screw up, okay, so that hopefully you can avoid that. So what you do is you're going to go in here and you're going to create your first Piesync. Now, I already have one, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and edit mine. All right. Now, here's what Piesync is doing. Piesync is going to update your contacts from one database to the next database. So that way, if you're still using Infusionsoft, or you're still using MailChimp, or you're still using Constant Contact or Salesforce or Follow Up Boss, whatever, they'll sync. So that way you can work from one database that will sync the other. Now, here's my recommendation. Don't sync back and forth between both. You're likely to get duplicates. You're likely to get one overriding the other. So what I'm doing is, even though this looks reverse, I'll show you how that works in a second. I'm doing anything that comes into Constant Contact because that's the original database. Then update command. Now you see these little arrows? This is what makes that choice. So up here, KW command, if I click this arrow, it will only sync from command to Constant Contact. If I click this arrow, it will only sync from Constant Contact to KW command. And if I click both arrows, it syncs back and forth. Now, when I was doing the syncing back and forth, that's when I was seeing a whole lot of problems unless you have some really in-depth rules, if this, then that rule setup. It can get messy. You might be overwriting info. You might put the address in one and not in the other, and the way you're syncing back and forth, you're actually overwriting it and removing something. So you have to be really careful. So when you first set this up, you're going to go in and say, I'm going to set up a new connection rule if, so yours would be blank down here. It would look like this. Okay, go down here with me. We'll pretend we're starting a new one. And we do that. I'm going to create another rule. Okay, so when you first log in, you'll just see this. Okay, if a contact is, and then you want to pick whatever database you're using, whatever you've already synced up. So mine is Constant Contact. If a contact is in Constant Contact, then sync it from Constant Contact to KW command. So if it's in there, then it's in here. Now you can just leave it right there. Right there. Then it's syncing everything. But if you wanted to take further actions, which would include mapping certain fields, then you're going to add some if this, then that type of thinking, okay? First, scroll down here to field mappings. So make sure all of your fields are matched up. First name to first name, last name to last name, middle name to middle name, company to company. Now, unfortunately, there's certain things that are not working yet. So if, like I wanted if lead source in Constant Contact, then import source into here, and we don't have that option yet. So unfortunately, some of that's going to happen. So if lead source, then there's nothing that I'm able to add a map to. So this does not replace the import that would have those types of features on it. It's more of a continuing sync so that at least you have the two adding those contacts together, and then you can go from there. For right now, this is still going to require some manual entry, and I'll show you exactly how I'm doing mine in a minute once we get this up, okay? Now, additional check mark. Don't sync deleted contacts. So disabling this setting will cause all deleted contacts in Constant Contact to be synced with KW command. Okay, so if I'm deleting a contact in Constant Contact for some reason, I don't want it importing over to command. That's a choice, okay? Now, this will help you avoid duplicates. Only sync contacts that have an email address. And then over here, when a conflicting change is detected, which one do you want to win? All right, so what that means is, let's just say first name. So you've got you've got a lead that has just come in into Constant Contact. It's also already in command. So the new lead that just came in says Patricia. And the first name in command says Patty. Which one of those do you want to retain the field? I'm actually going to choose command because I want to start working in command and making my changes in command. And I don't want a new lead that should come in through Constant Contact to override what I already have. So you have to choose which one wins, and it should probably be whichever database you're going into. So I'm going to choose command wins. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple advanced strategies in a minute, but I want you to see at least this. Okay? Now, here's where you need to be super, super careful. After you make your sync, make sure undo is off, because here's what happens. If Constant Contact title does not equal this, then remove. So what's going to happen is it'll start taking things away from your new database. And if you don't know what you're doing, that's going to mess you up. And what I noticed is these undos are showing up by default. So if you don't know what you're doing, turn this off. Just do that. If you don't know what you're doing, turn that off right now, because you're going to end up undoing a whole bunch of stuff you did in command, and it's going to frustrate you, and you're not going to want to do that, okay? So let me show you some examples for how I'm using this. Okay, if a contact is in Constant Contact and it's in my list, KW Mega Camp Notes. So my Constant Contact, I run everything off of list in there. Okay, so you might be using a database where you're running more off of tags or custom fields or something like that. In this particular case, lists are my primary action sets. So I'm doing, if it's in Constant Contact and it's in the list KW Mega Camp Notes, then add the tag agent. So this is going to help me start tagging in my database. And for those of you that are following KW Command, the health score, adding a tag to your database adds as part of the score. And I can tell you exactly how much it adds. Adding a tag is 4% of the score. So 20% is first name, 20% is email, 20% is phone number, 20% is address, and then lead source is 4%, date of birth is 4%, social account is 4%, profession or company is 4%. So the main guts of it are up here in those first few fields. But if you want to make sure that there is a tag assigned, and the reason why that's part of the score is because tags are going to help us segment our audiences, target our audiences. Tags are going to become a big part of how we use our database. So it makes sense that that's part of your database health score. So I want every single person that comes into my database to have a tag. Are they a buyer? Are they a seller? Are they a real estate agent? Are they a lender? Are they those are the types of things that we're adding, okay? Now, I might also say, also add action. So if contact is in constant contact and in the list. So these two things are required. It's and, not or. If it's here and it's here, then fire the action. Add tag agent and add. So now I can say add title, update title with real estate agent. Now, here's something I don't like about Piesync, right? And this might be it might be an element of the integration between Piesync and KW Command specifically, or Constant Contact specifically. Update title profession, override with real estate agent. That's what I was looking for. Okay, yay. Update title profession when empty, set to real estate agent. Okay, that was not working with my other tutorial this morning, so it must have been that field specifically. So here we go. If the contact is in constant contact and it's in my Mega Camp notes list, then add tag agent and update title profession when empty to real estate agent. Because if you say override with, it will replace what you had before. I don't want to do that. Oh, it was lead source. It wasn't working earlier. It was lead source. So lead source will only override. You know what I think the reason is? And I'm going to guess it's because this is a blank field when empty, where lead source is a drop down with preset options. So you have to override it. But I wish it would still say if nothing selected then. Maybe we'll get that later. So with lead source, that doesn't work, but there it does. Okay. Now here's another one. If in constant contact and company name equals Keller Williams, then add tag agent. Now watch this. Add action, update company, when empty, set to Keller Williams. Here's another one. If constant contact and opt-in source equals unsubscribed, then update preferred method of contact to do not contact. And update notes, add value unsubscribed. So now in my notes, it'll say unsubscribed. I'm coming up with a billion of these. I'm an if this, then that girl. I live in if this, then that. Next one is if contact is constant contact and title equals real estate agent. Oh, I think we already did that one, didn't we? Oh, this is a different one. Okay, then add tag agent and add title. So you can see you might wind up with hundreds of these. I mean, seriously, if you're really setting up your automation, you're gonna have a lot. Here's another one. If in constant contact and source, so lead source equals listings to leads, then add tag seller. So that way, just in case it doesn't import correctly. Now you saw that in our Zapier, we said to make it say seller. So if that works, we would not need this extra element. However, I have a whole bunch of leads that are already in my database with listings leads that I need updated. So I'm putting that extra sync on so that my old leads will update, not just my new ones. And KW update lead source override with listings to leads. See what I mean about it doesn't say if empty. So in this particular case, we can only override with listings to leads. You know, I'm going to take that out. I'm going to take that out because I don't want that to override the things I've already manually changed. So we're going to take that out. Okay, and update stage override with captured, right? So new lead comes in, I want it to be in the stage and I want it to say captured. So then later we can say connected, qualified, client. So I'm going to leave that as captured, right? And remember, anywhere this little undo option, I'm going to turn that undo option off. Now let's go ahead and save and resume syncing, and I'll show you how I'm setting these up, because it can get overwhelming very quick. So my suggestion is that you don't do a massive number of these at the same time, but rather you do them as your new leads are coming in. So first step is to integrate the lead source so that it funnels in. So your IDX broker, go to Zapier, your any of those, go in and set up so that at least they're dropping into Constant Contact. Then set up your Piesync one at a time as things start to come in. So again, generically, you could just say, if anything comes into Infusionsoft or Follow Up Boss, then funnel into command. That's the basic generic one I showed you. And that at least gets you rolling. Then you can start setting up your rules based on what's coming in. So what I'm doing is twofold. One, I have Constant Contact. I have command open, and I'm watching my new leads come in. So we have created. Yeah, see, we're still not seeing that new lead that came in from, so it still hasn't dropped in there yet. There you go. Great example of the speed to lead. There might be a reason that's not dropping in from Zapier, and I'd have to go look. Maybe that was an unsubscribe and I didn't notice it, so it won't funnel it in. Or maybe it'll show up in 5 minutes. But anyway, what I'm doing is I'm looking at everybody going, okay, what date was this person created? Okay. Now you can see my tags now are funneling in automatic. The syncing is adding the agent tag. I did not add all of those. That's now syncing. And see where it says created? Unfortunately, that's not accurate. Some of these were already in my database, and that created day is changing to today, and that has something to do with that Piesync. So that's something to be aware of, and we'll have to look and find out what's happening with that down the road. But I keep looking at these. So let me show 50, and let me find one that's not. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm watching for ones that are not tagged. Okay. All right. So here's one. This Kelly, I can tell that she's a Keller Williams agent based on her email there. So I might go over to Constant Contact and take a look and see. Hold on, somebody's knocking at the door. We want them to go away. Let's go ahead and look at Kelly. What was the name of that person? Hold on. P-O-U-G. Okay. Now, here's the concept. You want to be updating one or the other based on how you set up your Piesync. So in my case, I have anything I update in Constant Contact, then updates in command. Eventually, that's not going to be the case, but whichever database you're primarily using, that's when I'm making all my updates and I'm letting it sync. So what I would do here is I would go in and say, okay, Kelly, yep, Kelly's a KW agent. Kelly, thank you for letting me use you as an example. So Kelly, I'm going to put real estate agent. She's with Keller Williams. I can tell because of her KW address. I'm going to save it. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in Keller Williams tag. Now what'll happen is Piesync, when it connects these two people again, it will now say Kelly's a real estate agent with Keller Williams. Therefore, over here, next time I look in, Kelly will have the system tag agents. Her company name will be updated with Keller Williams, and her real estate title will be updated with Keller Williams. So I'm just taking these through one at a time, and I'm setting up the syncs based on where I see gaps. If I see a buyer lead come in from IDX Broker and it's not tagging something correctly, I want it to do more, then I go up and set the sync up according to that. Now, I will share with you that my commitment is that I'm going to spend 2 hours every single day in my databases. And those activities are going to be a combination of setting up my Piesyncs, importing from other sources if I still need to import, checking my scoring system, adding birthdays, adding phone numbers. Now, I'm not going to add just for the sake of adding because I want my score to be green. Don't make that mistake. I think a lot of you guys, a lot of people out there are going to make that mistake, and that's a bad mistake. What you need to do is use the scoring system to tip you off as to what you need to go update, and then make sure you're doing something with it, because the scoring system is there to show you that the most important components that should help you reach that contact aren't in there. So you're going to go in there and do something with it. So potentially everybody I have that's tagged as a buyer, maybe I want to be adding them to the Smart Plan 8x8, right? I'm not putting other real estate agents on an 8x8, not the default one. We need to set up custom stuff for that down the road. Maybe I want to make sure everybody that's tagged as a seller has a neighborhood profile set up and a biweekly nurture or a long-term nurture or something like that. Maybe I want to go add birthdays and set up my send out cards so that people are getting cards from me on their birthdays. Or maybe I'm going to launch launch a smart plan or something of that sort. So every time you're in here updating something in your database, make sure you're applying some sort of smart plan or activity to that at the same time, if there is going to be one. If your agents are just there for referrals right now, then just put them in there, get them tagged. But I would make sure that you have their address in there. Maybe you do want to contact them so that you know that you actually did do something, right? There may not be something custom in here yet, but maybe you could do it from a third party and then make a note that you sent a card, or that you Facebook message them, or that you know, if you want to send them a text or a call from within your Twilio system, you can do that, okay? So this is how I'm doing it. I'm going to bring you lots more on this. If you haven't seen it yet, check out the video, the 1 hour video that's super popular that I did on the complete overview of Command, and I'll make sure that that's put here in the video for you.